We continue now at the top of Daf Kuf Zayin Amud Aleph and Mesechet Kesubos. This is Kesubos Daf 107a. The Gemara here continues with the Machlokes Amoraim Poskin Mizonos Le'esh Asish. According to Rav, let's say you have a situation where a person leaves on a journey, he leaves his wife, so then the Bezin is allowed to come and go into his estate, go into his property, and they can give Mizonos to his wife. Shmuel Amar Ein Poskin Mizonos Le'esh Asish, but Shmuel says no, the Bezin is not allowed to go into his estate and provide Mizonos for this individual's wife. Amar Shmuel says, Modali Abba admits to me, Abba is referring to Rav, he admits to me, B'shlosha Chadashim Harishonim, in the first 3 months, L'fisha Ein Adam Meniach Beiso Reikon, a person is not going to leave his house empty. And what Shmuel means to say is that Rav would admit in the first 3 months, the Bezin is not going to go into the property and give her from that property, because the assumption is he certainly left something for her. And the Gemara continues, B'sheshamu bo shameis kol yalma lo pligi. If they heard that he died, there is no machlokes. Everybody agrees that we can take money from his estate and support his wife. Ki pligi, when is the machlokes Rav and Shmuel? B'shelo shamu bo shameis. The cases where he left, but we don't know whether he died or not. We didn't hear that he died. Rav Amar Poskin, Rav says that we do set aside money, we can go into his estate and provide for her mizonos, because this is an obligation that he has to her. Shmuel Amar Ein Poskin, and Shmuel says we don't do that. My time, and what's the reason for Shmuel? Rav Zvid Amar Eimot Surori Atfasar. Rav Zvid says the reason is because we assume maybe he left her a bundle of money. Really, she has money to provide for herself, so we don't go and take it from his estate. Rav Papa says Chayshinon Shema Amar Lo. It's because we're afraid maybe he said to her, that I no longer want your earnings, and you can use your earnings for your mizonos, and that's why we don't go into his estate in order to provide her mizonos. And the Gemara says, Mai Beinayu, what's the difference between the approach of Rav Zavid and the approach of Rav Papa? Ika Beinayu, the difference is as follows. Gedola velo safka. Let's say she was an adult and her earnings are not enough. So because she was an adult, we really could assume that he left her a bundle of money. That would be Rav Zavid's reason. But her earnings are not enough, so you can't go with Rav Papa's reasoning that he allowed her to use her earnings. Inami katana v'safka. Or another difference is, let's say she's a minor where he certainly did not leave her a bundle of money. However, v'safka, maybe her earnings are enough. So again, according to Rav Zavid, he certainly did not leave her tzrari, and according to Rav Papa, her earnings are enough, and therefore we do not need to go into his estate. And Rashi over here explains, B'shashamu bo shameis kol yalma lo pligi. If they heard that he died, there's no machlokes to poskin. Certainly in that situation, we are going to give the mizonos to her, because there's no concern. If there's a concern that maybe he left her a bundle of money, but in the end anyway, he has died, and therefore she'll collect the ksuba, so she's going to collect that money anyway. At that time, when she collects the money, she will take a shvua that he didn't leave anything for her, that she doesn't have any of their property. And if the concern is maybe he told her, you can keep your earnings and therefore I don't owe you any mizonos, and she accepted that. But once he dies, so there is no obligation for her to give the earnings anyway, so that's not an issue either. So that's why, again, they can take the mizonos for her from his estate. Now maybe we'll say, no, she does have an obligation to give the earnings to the Yisomim. So even if you say that they said that to her, meaning let's say they said to her that your earnings should be what you use for the mizonos, but again, that doesn't work unless she agrees anyhow, so that is not an issue. And the Gemara continues, Tanan, we learned in our Mishnah, let's say somebody goes far away, and now his wife is asking for mizonos, similar to our machlokas over here, Amoraim, between Rav and Shmuel. Hanan says she has to take an oath at the end when she's collecting her ksuba, but not at the beginning when she's asking for mizonos. All the bnei kohanim gedolim and the sons of the kohanim gedolim, they argued on Hanan, and they said tishava batchila uvasov. She takes an oath in the beginning and the end, both when she's collecting the mizonos and when she's collecting the ksuba. And so the Gemara now says, Adkan lo pligi, the only machlokas tanoim over here is elul inyan shvua, in terms of whether she takes a shvua. Again, that was a machlokas. Hanan says there's no shvua at the beginning for mizonos, and the Bnei Kohanim Gedolim say there is a shvua. But apparently, according to the Mishnah, we do give her the mizonos. It seems clear that we give her the mizonos, and that would seem to support Rav. And so the Gemara answers, Tirgama Shmuel will answer, B'shashamu bo shemeis. Our Mishnah is talking specifically where they heard that he had died, and there everybody would agree, in such a situation, everyone would agree that she would get mizonos. And the Gemara continues, Tashma, coming here, another proof, the Braisa says, Mishalach l'medina sayam, somebody travels far away, V'ishto tovas mizonos, and his wife wants mizonos. B'nei kohanim gedolim omrim tishava. The b'nei kohanim gedolim say she needs to take an oath. Chanan omer lo tishava. Chanan say she doesn't need to take an oath. V'imba v'yomar pasakti lo mizonos. Now if he comes and he says, I already gave her mizonos, so Naman, so in such a case he is believed. And again, it is clear from this brisa that we are providing her mizonos. And the Gemara says, Hachinami here also, b'shashamu bo shemes. The case is that we heard that he died. But the Gemara says you can't answer that. But it says that he came and he said, or let's say he came and he claimed that he gave them his onos, so then clearly he is alive. And the Gemara says, no, it simply means he came after we heard that he had died, but then he shows up. And Rashi over here says, in other words, he says, I already left a bundle of money. Namon, he's believed, he takes an oath. At that time she'll have to return that what Bezin gave to her. He comes back after we heard. After we heard that he died, that's when he arrived. And the Gemara continues, Tashma, come and hear a proof from a Tosefta. The Tosefta says, Misha halach lemedinas hayom. Let's say somebody goes far away. V'ishto tovas mizonos, and his wife wants mizonos. V'imbo v'yomar tzi ma'aseh yodayich b'mizonosayich. Now, if he comes and he says that you should use your earnings for your mizonos, rashoy, he's permitted. Kidmu bezin upasku. But if the bezin already came along and they took from his estate to give her mizonos, masha pasku, that which they designated for her is already designated. It is hers. And so again, what do you see from this Tosefta? You see from this Tosefta that she's able to take mizonos. And again, the Gemara answers, Hachanami b'shashamu bo shemes. The case over here also is when they heard that he died. And the Gemara continues, Tashma, coming here another proof from a Brisa. The Brisa says, Mishahalach lemedinas hayam. Somebody travels far away. V'ishto tovas mizonos, and his wife is claiming mizonos. Bezdin yordim lenechosav. Bezdin goes down, descends to his property. V'zonin umefarnasin leishto. They give mizonos and parnasa to his wife. Avalo banav uvenosav v'lo davar acher. But they don't give to his sons or to his daughters, and they don't give her davar acher, something else, which the Gemara will explain. And so the Gemara says, Amar Rav Sheishes says, in this case again, it seems to be a proof that we give mizonos to the wife. It seems to be a question on Shmuel. So Rav Sheishes answers, B'mashres ishto al yedei shlish. In this case, we're talking specifically where there actually is a third party that was appointed to provide mizonos to his wife, and therefore in this case, since he has already appointed a third party to do that, that's why we're able to provide mizonos to his wife. But the Gemara says, Yachi, if so, Banav uvenosav nami, we should say the same for his sons and daughters. If there's a third party that's designated to provide mizonos, that third party should provide for them as well. And the Gemara says, Kishahishra lazu v'lo hishra lazu. The case is, he designated it for her, meaning for this one, for the wife, but not for that one, not for the sons and daughters. And Rashi over here explains, B'mashra ishto al yedei shlish. Again, he sets up a third party. Hamid apotropis lazuna. He had already set up an apotropis to provide mizonos for her. V'achshav moshach apotropis as yadu, and now that will simply be extended. The hashda vaday litzrari like a lemechash, because in this case, certainly we're not concerned that he left his wife a bundle of money because there was an apotropis. V'lo l'shem amar lotzi ma'aseh yodayich lemizonosayich, and we're also not concerned that he is having her use her earnings because again, he had already set up this apotropis. And the Gemara asks, if so, the Hishros al yedei shlish, that he did this for her with a third party, afilu banav uvenosav nami. That's true with his sons and daughters also. Clearly, he's making it clear that he wants them to be provided for. He wants mizonos to be provided for them from his property. And so the Gemara continues, well, my paska, but why make the distinction? In other words, again, if you're going to say he designated for the wife and not for his children, why would we know to make such a distinction in this brisa? And so the Gemara says, you're right, Elamar, a papa says, Kishashama bo shemeis be'erecha. This brisa is talking about a situation where they did hear that he died, but they only heard that he died through one witness. So therefore, in that situation, he di'iboyis in suve be'erechad matzi minsava. So by the wife, there's a special leniency that through the testimony of one aid, we don't want her to be an iguna. So therefore, through the testimony of one aid, we allow her to remarry. So once we're believing this aid for the purposes of her remarriage, so mazone nami yavin Allah, so we also give her mazonos. But banav uvenosa, when it comes to his sons and his daughters, di'ibo lemechas lenechasa be'erechad lo matzi nechasi. If they wanted to go take his property, they couldn't do that on the word of one aid. So mazone nami lo yavinalu. So therefore, we don't give them mizonos also. So that's how you explain this brisa that the wife gets mizonos. But at the same time, the banav and benosav, they they do not get the mezonos. And the Gemara says, "My davar acher." What does it mean here, davar acher? What is this davar acher that we're not giving to her? Rav Chisda Amar Tachshit. Rav Chisda says it refers to ornaments, to jewelry. Rav Yosef Amar Tzedakah. Rav Yosef says it refers to the fact that we don't give her money, that she should give that money out to tzedakah. And the Gemara explains, "Man damar tachshit kol shekain." The one who says that the tachshit we don't give her, certainly we're not going to give her the tzedakah. And we'll continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Kuf Zayin Amud Beis.